Hello, 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 and welcome to the Million Dollar Electrician podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. All right, welcome back. Another big week. We've got a guest today, Joshua Crouch. I'm going to go into the intro, but I want to continue the conversation we just started. Joseph, Josh, we were just talking about why are electricians the redheaded stepchild of the home service trades. I do not get it.
It's a frustrating situation, man. And Josh, you being in the HVAC field, I'd love to get your perspective on this as well. I have a feeling it's how it is working with us as a whole. Electricians are very literal, logical, very opinionated individuals. And we come from the fact of saying we have an intense amount of education and we're told we have to stand on our own feet. So it's sometimes not only harder to coach us, but we're also less likely to want to receive advice. But that doesn't mean that we think that we're better than anyone else. It's a weird combination cocktail.
Yeah, I actually have a really interesting story to kick that off. So both my wife and I worked in the trade. She did sales. She worked at a company that was primarily an electrical company. And I remember her distinctly telling me how different the technicians were, like managing them. Electricians were pretty easy going, pretty easy to like get their jobs, get their day, take care of them. HVAC, I'm going to put it nicely. There's some characters in the HVAC industry. It is a very, it's kind of like that bravado industry. Like it's like, I'm the man type thing. And like someone walks in a room and it's like, you put their
right on the table.
like we're all going to measure them on the table. Like my average ticket's bigger than yours, that kind of thing. And I remember that distinctly because it's so true. Even the electrician clients we have, it's just a different type of person. It's a different personality type than it is for HVAC and even plumbing.
I remember back to when I first started off, I was in a combination at a company where they did HVAC and plumbing. And I remember being in a room with all the HVAC guys as we did like our weekly trainings. And I remember feeling like I was really small because as an electrician, I could sell a panel and it'd be like a $5,000 change out. Or I could sell I could sell rewire, or I could sell a generator and there'd be big tickets. But on the average, the tickets were usually under around $5,000. So I was under the impression that any successful tech had to be doing 25 plus thousand every week to be considered anything. Because all the other guys around me were like, well, I sold new furnaces and new boilers and new exterior units and cutouts and ductless and new ducting. And I'm like, so I thought the standard had to be where it was. That's why I trained so relentlessly to get there. It's insane how just perspective does that to you.
Speaking of standards, we've got a ton to go into in the show today. If you guys stick around with us in this conversation, you're going to learn a ton about marketing, some what to do's early on, some what not to do's early on. Josh has some great advice on that. And this comes from a great background. Josh, really kind of a threefold of service here with all your experience and even your partner wife's experience in sales and HVAC and training and managing companies such as this. But then also you started Relentless Digital Media, which has been named by, I think, is it the number 217 fastest growing companies in America this year, if I got that right. And then the third fold is the Home Service Business Mastery podcast, which you guys recently hit 2 million downloads, not views, downloads. Is that right?
Yeah, that doesn't count any video views. That's just literally people listening to it. And we've been traveling the last couple of weeks, and literally I told you guys before I got started, like this is my first day back in the office from 3 events over the last 2 weeks. And it's great. Like you don't realize, and I'm sure you guys get this too. You guys create a lot of content and a lot of stuff with the group, and people are like, oh, I see it everywhere, and I'm trying to apply it and learning, but they don't like it, they don't comment, they don't share it, they don't do anything. But you're like, oh, you've been paying attention. Like I haven't seen your name pop up on any of the stuff that I'm doing. But when we go to the events, people are like, oh, I listen to every episode. I'm like, what's your name?
Fly on the wall.
It's just got to that point, and I like knowing who listens to this stuff because it's a very rewarding feeling. You guys know you put a ton of effort and energy into a show like this and giving just anything and everything and trying to find different concepts and ideas that people you think can learn from. You don't know if it's valuable until someone tells you, like, just give me just a little feedback. I want to know, because it makes you want to do more, and you keep wanting to do more. Otherwise it's like, man, am I just shouting into the void here and nobody knows what's going on? So it's awesome that you guys, because you're on episode, I saw it recently. You guys have done a couple hundred episodes, or 150, 200 episodes. I mean, it's a lot.
I lost track, man. Honestly, I think we might.
That's a couple years straight of recording. That's a lot of time and effort and energy.
Yeah, we might be at 312 on this one. I'd have to check.
Okay.
Like, honestly, it's gotten to the point where the editor has to confirm that. And I should know going into it, but we actually don't. That said, how we started and the reason we did the way we did was because we came back to a conversation of like, well, what do electricians need really? And in this, we talked about the void of support really for electricians specifically. And by the way, I hear the echoes of everyone thinking like, no one's specifically helping me. So we wanted to do that for electricians, not just electricians, but service electricians. And it was like, well, what's the best way to help them? And how better to help someone than to get into the trenches 5 days a week, give them something moving, inspirational, but also a test of discipline and activity every day that they're working out there, so that hopefully they can make some changes, like you said, and actually see some action. So that was kind of our intent. But you actually said something really important there. And it's like, to know what's working in the marketing, it's nice to see people face to face. That inspires a huge nugget for me, just in that I think one of the biggest principles of marketing that people get wrong is actually marketing to themselves and what they want to see, and kind of forgetting what the audience says and what's in everyone else's mind. Does that kind of resonate with you, Josh? Is that something that you think about from time to time as well?
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging things about the digital side of marketing, and I'm sure users have, you guys have those conversations with users and stuff, is it's, who to trust. The problem is, and it's really difficult, especially, myself coming from HVAC, when a blower motor on a furnace was bad that we put in, we went to the supplier, we got a warranty part, we installed it. It was black and white. Digital marketing, all marketing really is a lot of gray. We live in the gray, because one, we don't own any digital algorithm. Facebook, it doesn't matter which platform, Facebook, TikTok, Google, YouTube, they own it. We have to try to adhere to that and try to essentially manipulate what we're doing so we can reach more people. And that's one of the things about the podcasting that's really rewarding, is there's really not a whole lot from the algorithm. So it's are people listening to it? Are they leaving reviews? It's pretty much like, is someone getting value from this? Whereas TikTok, you can add some like song that you can't even hear it, but it's like the trending audio, and you can have a video that's not even that good get a ton of views, and it's not even really that helpful for people. But that's something to remember. Like, when it's, why can't somebody give me a direct answer? Sometimes there's not a direct answer. It sucks. I usually preface with, it sucks for me to have to tell you this, but I'm telling you this because it's the truth. But it's a challenging thing. And I think that's something that most business owners, whether they're in the trades or in a different industry, need to know. Like, we're working with something that not only nobody fully understands. We think we know enough, but it changes all the time. And we have to try to keep up with the changes. And then whenever a change happens, we have to test something to try to see, okay, is this still working? Or is this other thing working? Or maybe we need to scrap all those plans and start over and like think outside the box with a new plan. And it's challenging that way. And it sucks, because you're obviously paying for that, but that's what you're paying for. Someone to constantly, or to use our company name, relentlessly pursuing what is working today, and knowing that someone's always going to have your back and try to find the next thing that's working well on the digital side.
I have to admit, your confidence is almost tangible. Like, I don't know if you could pick up on this. I mean, it just sounds like you have such an assurance that you know what you're doing. And I love that. Like, I just hope that more people can pick up on that, because the way you got into it was like, this sucks and I hate to tell you this. I immediately felt like, I'm like, okay, what do you have to say? Like I was already ready with you.
Truth
So
bomb.
please,
Here we
by all
go.
means.
So I will tell you, it's not the confidence that we always know the answers. It's the confidence that we will find the answer.
Bingo.
Because literally, so this is the third HVAC company I was working at. I was in the HVAC for 9 years. And I was primarily in charge of technology. So CRM, like Service Titan, implementing that, sales and marketing, and then kind of bringing operations home with that to make sure everything was functioning right. And so I really got to spend some time, and I just deep dove. I don't have a degree in marketing. I don't have some fancy education. I deep dove into ebooks, videos, and just relentlessly pursued information. And that hasn't changed. And I've kind of brought that to our team now, and they're always hungry for information and trying to learn what's working. And if it's not, let's find something else, and let's just always find the answer. One of our core values, and I'm hoping I can say this on your show, I'm sure
Of course.
it's in the trades, is make shit happen. It's not, there's a lot of other things you can put in there, but my team, that resonates with them. Like they love that core value. They love it.
Yeah.
Because it is super important. Like if we can't get the answer, we're gonna keep going until we find something. And I think most businesses can take something from that, because just because you hear a no the first time doesn't mean you stop. It just means you keep trying. You find a different way. You try a different path. And I think that's a super important point, whether it's in marketing or in the trades or something else, is don't let a no stop you and be like, okay, well, I guess that door's closed.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually aligns with one of our values too. And we use this same language 5 days a week, 300 and some days a year, is like present, not perfect. We show up, we do the thing. We got as ready as we could. It's not to say planning went out the window, but we did what we could in the time that we allowed ourselves. And then we stepped up to the plate and we took a swing.
I like that, because I think a lot of and I've done that with our own video content creation and stuff. Like sometimes I'll wait for I be in the perfect mood, or
It's the worst.
I have the perfect script for that. It doesn't happen.
No.
Turn the camera on, shoot. Just whatever comes out. And obviously you can always edit it. You can do something, but honestly, some of our best content, some of our best stuff just comes from shooting from the hip and just trying. Because you get better. You get better. Yeah. You learn like, well, that sucked. I'm going to, if you go back and listen to the first couple episodes that I did with Tersh on Service Business Mastery, I didn't know where to jump in. Like we didn't have that synergy now, or like we know each other and how we work, but Tersh would say the same thing as first couple episodes, because he's been recording since 2017. He's like, my first episode sucked. I had no idea what I was doing. The audio was terrible. But that's every person that started somewhere. You start by sucking, and you just don't give up. You keep going. You keep showing up every day. You keep trying to implement the new things that, guys like you guys are teaching these guys how to improve their conversion rates, improve their average ticket, improve their culture, all those things that are super important to be able to scale a company.
I feel like that particular discipline is in the way of so many people right now. Like, I'm sure you run into it as well, where it's like, hey, are you doing your marketing? No, I got to work on my price book. Oh, are you doing your marketing? Oh, I got to clean the back of the van right now. I got to organize my shop. But you're right. We have to focus on the things that matter right now. Like I was taught an expression, fire, aim, fire, which means sometimes you need to place around to see where it's going to go. And then you can realign and re-aim. And so many people take their time and spend all their time aiming that they never actually place the shot. And they never go anywhere. So I like the fact that you're a man of action as well.
Well, you guys love, I mean, that's a Wayne Gretzky quote, isn't it? You miss 100% of the Is it Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan? I always confuse those.
Michael Jordan. That's Michael Jordan, 100%.
You know what? I think they both said it.
You miss 100% of shots you don't take.
I'll take Wayne Gretzky because he's Canadian.
That's why I was doing that for you, Clay.
Thanks, brother. Thanks.
Throw some compliments north of the border.
You're right, though. Like MJ too, right? And man, that guy, did you watch, what was that series called on Netflix? He did The Last Dance or something?
Last Dance.
You must have watched that. Like I grew up in the
I'm a big sports buff, so I love that stuff.
Brother, oh my. I didn't realize how big of a competitor that he was. Like blows my mind, aggressive.
Yeah, I love on Facebook, I get the stories, like the stories from other people about Michael Jordan. And it is just wild. That guy competed at everything.
Yeah.
Like stupid stuff that you and we would never think to compete about.
Yeah.
That guy was on another level.
You know where it came from though, right? I caught on early in the story because I always wonder like what makes people tick. And he said, hey, when I was a kid, me and my brother would shoot hoops on the court and my brother would kick my ass if I won. Like he would beat him bloody for winning, for making shots. So it just became the fight of his life.
I think
Literally.
that helps. I mean, a lot of great stories. There's been so many great movies where it's like like true underdog. Like
Yeah.
you don't have a chance. But the person had perseverance. They kept showing up every day, and they just implemented. They got maybe not even 1% better, but 0.5% better every day, and they just kept showing up. And I think that's the hard part. We're in, 2024 has not been kind to the trades or most of the economy. That's been well documented, and people just aren't spending money. They don't have access to the money that they had, a year and a half, 2 years ago. They don't get access to credit. Banks are tightening up. It's a lot of negativity out there, but it doesn't mean you stop. It doesn't mean you give up. It means you reach out. You guys got a group of like 6,000 electricians and other people that can help. Use the group. That's one of the first things back in 2013. Facebook was around, but Facebook groups really weren't developed yet. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'm not a tradesman. You notice the picture above me is not hung on the wall. And that's because I have been fired from hanging pictures on the wall because I put too many holes in the wall trying to. I'll eventually get it, but I have to kind of cover it up a little bit.
Command strips, man. Command strips. That's the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, Brittany tells everybody, it's like one of the first things she tells them. Yeah, we serve the trades. We were in the trades. My husband's not handy. It's like kind of the running joke. But I didn't come from that background. And at the time I had 50, 55-year-old technicians who had been technicians since they were 18 years old. They grew up in the trades, and trying to like manage them from the office side was extraordinarily daunting. At the time I was 27 or so, and I just wasn't this calm, cool, collected, confident guy you see today. I was scared.
None of us were, man.
I wasn't
Probably all
sure
checked
myself.
that
I didn't know
box.
what I was doing. I'm like, I didn't even understand what HVAC stood for. But you show up and you get through it. And then 10, 12 years later, you're an overnight success.
You said something really important in the notes that you left us for this podcast. And it was about some of the 3 principles that have really helped you get there. You said there are too many limiting beliefs over, well, that won't work for me or my team. That won't work in my market. What are your feelings on it when you hear that from someone, you see that in social? What do you think the correction is there?
I just think it's an excuse to not have to put the work in, to not have to do the job, to try it. Because we're comfortable. Everybody, we've all had those times where we get comfortable, like, it doesn't work unless you've actually tried it. And I'm not saying try it like, hey, I'm going to go do one call today. I'm going to try this one thing. If it doesn't work, I'm done. Actually give it time to work, because if it is working for someone else, there's a reason it works. And it's because it's practiced, it's rehearsed, it's scripted. They know exactly what to say, what to do, how to pause and some of the inflection points in their voice. Like it's really well practiced. There's a guy that we've had on our show a couple of times. He's a good friend now. His name is Doug Wyatt. He was in the trades for a long time, and he has a CSR technician and sales coaching thing. And most of the stuff we talk about is CSR side, but it's so scripted. Like, you go to a training event, I'm sure you guys have this with some of your training too. Like, it's so scripted. You could throw any objection that you want at somebody, and you know how to role play. You know how to get that objection, turn it around and answer the question. But I think so many times we're so afraid of like stepping out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
100%.
if you're, I don't remember how the quote goes because I've seen it around social media a few times, but if you're not at least a little uncomfortable, you're not growing, you're not pushing yourself. And it's so true. I thought I was comfortable like public speaking because we do the podcast, we do this stuff, but that's all remote, right? It's pretty easy to do. It's just a conversation. Even in person when we do live recordings, it's just 3 or 4 of us. It's an easy conversation. It flows really well. Standing in front of a group of 100 or 500 people trying to like make them realize that there's something out there that can help grow their business. Tersh and I did that last week, a keynote at an event, and it was, but if we could just stay comfortable, we could just podcast, we could just record videos, but that was the next step for us. And we both wanted to get better. So let's put ourselves out there. The first time we did it last year together sucked. Like we watched the video, we're like, oh, that was like the audience probably didn't know, but I'm like, man, that was not very good. We made these inside jokes that nobody understood. Like it was really awkward, but we hired a coach. We got better. It's just continuous improvement in every part of your life. I mean, honestly, today, I couldn't tell you exactly how many coaches I have because I have coaches for different things, but I have like 5 or 6 different coaches, a trainer, a doctor that helps with, just different vitamins and supplements for my body, business coach. We have a group coaching thing. Like just, there's so much information out there that I think it's important for whatever you're trying to accomplish in your life. Find someone that has already been there and listen to them. Don't come in there and be guarded and be like, that's not gonna work. That's a fad. That's not gonna continue. Because I think that's where we stop ourselves from greatness by holding ourselves back.
You said something and it really just stuck with me. And the thought is, you won't know you're ready for bigger shoes until the ones you're in already start to hurt. Right? You have to want to get to the next level for something to need to change. And the thing is, when we hear that, because it happens a lot, people will be like, well, that won't work here. And usually the underlying reason is because they're afraid of trying it. And it's a human feeling. Realistically, it's like, why would I try something new? Because if I try it new and I get rejected, that is something that they feel is a personal reflection rather than the process being the reflection.
I feel like it goes back to high school and dating, right? Like, we don't want to get rejected,
but you got to try,
like out to the prom or whatever.
You got to try. Because I mean, the fact is if you don't learn where the process breaks, you don't get the chance to fix it. And you'll always get stumped by the same objections that throw you. Clay, you saw your hand up. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all good, man. That won't work here is our biggest objection. We get that from more electricians than I could count in a day. And it just feels like the ideal time for a plug. One of our guys, and a plug, I mean, our win of the week here, one of our guys, Bailey, just had an $83K month in an area where you can't see the next house on the road. 83,000, essentially making him $1 million electrician status. Like he's on the way.
Yep.
And I love telling people this because you watch it melt off their face and they realize, oh my God, I'm the biggest problem here. And you can see it because we don't serve communities, we serve people. Usually one at a time, sometimes with their partner, but those two are one person in a way.
And people really, I mean, there's different personalities, but people aren't, that's why the disc has only got 4 different personality types, right? Because that's pretty much that's the human range right there. It's not much, we try to psychoanalyze all this stuff, but there's really only a few different personality types and you just have to know how to talk to them. And we all want nice things. We all want a great house that looks great. People come into our house and like, wow, look at the lighting. Like we all want that. Because that makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we're taking the things that we've worked hard for and turning into something that other people like. It's like the validation. And I don't understand. It's hard to imagine a time once you realize that you're your own worst enemy and you get past that and you're like, you kind of open yourself up for like, I can learn from anybody. I'm in a group coaching thing for agencies. And there was a point where I'm like, man, I'm bigger than a lot of these agencies. But then I caught myself after a while because I'm like, well, wait a minute, I did learn something from this one. That's only they're not even $1 million. I'm like 4 or 5 times their size, and I'm like, but I didn't know that. You just be open to learn from anyone that you talk to, and it's crazy what happens when you open your mind. Like, oh, well, that's a different take on that. I didn't even really consider that because we all have our own background from our families and histories and upbringing and stuff that happened to us way in the past, and it's just be open. Be open and be willing to learn at any moment in time.
Yeah.
Additionally, on top of that, I feel like it's almost like a learn, do, teach moment. But when we come back to it, I always believe that it's in understanding the basics that you get the biggest levers in your success. So like, even if let's just say devil's advocate here. let's say you were the biggest in your organization and that everyone else was less experienced than yourself. Eventually, they would ask you the questions, and you would need to know the basics well enough to articulate it to someone who doesn't know, thus reinforcing your grasp of the basics, therefore providing you value. Even if you're not necessarily learning something new, you're reinforcing the road that's already well traveled in your head.
I love that. That's I actually asked the guy that runs it to like start helping out more from that perspective, because you can do something, but as soon as you teach it back, it's like it's locked forever. You don't ever forget it. And I think it's such an important thing. Plus, it's just great to give back. Like when you have people reach out to you and they like, man, I really appreciate you doing that. Or they ask you a question like, oh, a lot of time. And I think it's because of our travel schedule and some of the stuff that I've been posting. People are like, oh, I know you're so busy, but I'm like, I always have time to help someone. It doesn't have to be for money. It doesn't have to be like, I had someone that was a super small plumber, just needed some help with their Google business profile listings. Like they just couldn't understand why they're not getting leads from it. Being able to help someone, I didn't even ask to set up a sales call. Like sometimes you just do the right thing and we've all heard it. I'm sure your listeners have heard this as well, or you guys have even said it. What you give, you get back tenfold. That's not the purpose of giving, but it's just the world's way of thanking you for putting good into the world and trying to make the world a better place.
It does solidify it too. I mean, there's a selfish aspect to it. I'm not going to lie. I love to teach.
There is. I mean, yeah, but it also does make you feel good. Like it's, just like the electricians listening to this, when you go to a house and you have a complicated problem and it's maybe it's a little old lady or something like that, and you help them, you got that superhero cape on. You feel like 10 million bucks. You're like, I'm the man or the woman. Like you just feel amazing about yourself. And it's kind of the same. It's just that it just makes you feel good. If you're always doing it for your own gain and stuff, you're not doing it for the right reasons. And I would have you check yourself in the mirror and be like, why am I actually doing this? Am I doing it just to get rich? If you are, granted, you're probably not going to stop yourself, but you're doing it for the wrong reason. You're not going to be as fulfilled. You're going to get rich and then you're still going to be miserable. You're not going to be happy with your life. You're not going to like the people you're around because you're not actually trying to make their lives better. And I think that's a super valuable thing that I've kind of learned along the way. I did not know that when I first started. I was just trying to better my life because I was in, Brittany tells this story when we first started dating. I could barely pay for like I don't know if you guys know Taco John's. It's more of a regional, it's like a Taco Bell. It's like a $5 meal. And I could barely pay enough to like get my meal. So I couldn't even pay for her lunch when we got together. She tells that story a lot because it just couldn't. And so I was always looking for a way to like get to the point where I could support and support a family and stuff like that. But through helping other people, and that's how Relentless Digital started. To be honest, we were in a business coaching group that focused on multi-trades out in New Jersey. And there's about 300 members in their Facebook group. I started learning stuff on the Google business profile side. And I just started like, hey, this is working for us. This is what we did. That's it. I didn't have a business. I wasn't even thinking about starting a business at that point. I'm like, hey, this is helping us. Let me just like, hey, maybe this helps you. And then I started having people, and actually the first one that reached out to me was from Toronto, ironically enough. Became my first client. So my first client wasn't even in the US.
Hear that, people? Friendly. We got a friendly here.
Very friendly. I still talk. I actually, he's not a client any longer. He just reached out the other day for something because we have some other stuff going on. He just asked a question. But that was the sole purpose. Like, hey, maybe this helps you. Maybe it helps grow your business. And then it turned into an opportunity. And as soon as I started having people reach out, I'm like, well, I have an opportunity here. I think there's enough people asking for help. Maybe this is something that we can do. And then I wanted to start my own podcast. And then I asked Tersh, because he was like the guy that I knew that had a podcast. What kind of gear do I need? I was asking him questions all the time. He's like, hey, would you just want to co-host with me? But by not asking, by not putting myself out there, these opportunities would not be there. I would have just kept doing what I was doing, making what I was making, which was a comfortable living, but not what I wanted. But just ask for what you want. Don't be afraid. And I think sometimes you see certain personalities online and stuff like that, and you like, oh, I can't ask them. Like I'm too small. I'm just a peon or whatever, language you use to kind of demean yourself. Just ask. The worst they can do is tell you they don't have time, or they can, but most people are very, very willing to help and to guide you.
Got to put it all out there. There's something that Joe brushed over too, and I want to plug this a little bit because it's just such a huge piece that we skim over. It's like the importance of the basics that we've been talking about, but not just how important they are to hear once, but to take action on relentlessly, as Josh should probably say here, over and over and over. And I'm reminded of how Hormozy put it. And ultimately, it was just like, people don't need to be taught as much as they need to be reminded. And Joe, I mean, you're a walking testament to this. You attended the same original sales event 7 years straight, didn't you?
Yeah. So what the situation was is that when we first started out, we needed electrical help. We needed, like, someone needed to teach me something. I didn't know anything. So the only people I could go to, back to your point originally, Josh, was HVAC coaches. That's all that was out there. So I ended up working with an HVAC and plumbing coach to teach me electrical sales. And I tried to go through it, but the thing was, not everything would translate. But the basics were very strong. So I would come back to get the basics reinforced because I couldn't find it anywhere else. And people would be like, "Well, why are you doing this? You could be teaching it." What? I'm not here to teach it. I'm here to learn it. And the more I can learn the basics, I will always get better and better. And now my foundational is very strong because I invested so much into that original infrastructure.
And I think to that point, because there's a lot of industry trade shows. Some are specific to certain trades. Some are more general, where people are like, is there enough value to go to these events or these shows? And I think you guys,
we got opinions on that. Yep.
Okay. So I think the problem is a lot of people go and they just want to have a good time, and they like to talk and drink and have good food and go to the after parties, and they don't come with something in mind to learn. And yeah, you can waste your time and money really easily at these events because there's so much good content, but it's like, it is a fire hose. I mean, some of these keynotes, like the one we're going to next week, has got Damon John from Shark Tank and someone else. We're actually interviewing John Formica. He used to be the chief experience officer at Disney, in charge of like their customer experience, which, if you know anything about Disney, that is everything. That's literally everything that they do is built around the experience. So I'm super excited about that. But like, you go to these events, that's drinking from a fire hose. You're like, oh my God, these people are on. I mean, Damon John's a multi-billionaire with, however many companies. Like, there's only so much you can learn from them. But in the nitty-gritty, the networking, finding people that are around your size, or maybe they're 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. But you got to put yourself, just everything we're talking, you got to put yourself out there.
Come with intention. You got to come with intention.
Don't go sit at the table with your wife or your business partner or your general manager or whatever it is, and just sit there and just only talk to each other. Introduce yourself. Hey, what do you do? Just start the conversation. I promise you. Then all of a sudden it's like, what's your biggest problem? How'd you solve it? Or what's your biggest problem when you're 500,000, 1 million, 2 million? And people will open up to you, and they love sharing those stories because it reminds them, and it allows them to reflect on their journey. And it actually makes them feel pretty good about themselves. Oh yeah, I did overcome that. I forgot about that. And that's why it's so important to not be in your own little world. Like, expand your horizon, expand your network, because then you always have other electricians. Like, the group you guys have is awesome. Like 6,000 people. I wish our group was 6,000 people. But just to be able to have that many minds, to people at different stages of their journey, and be able to pick their brains and then hear them on podcasts like this. There's so many great stories and lessons you can learn just by listening to other people's failures and successes.
Yeah, thanks for that, man. I'm reminded of, are you an Adam Grant fan at all?
I don't know if I know who that is.
Hidden Potential, one of my favorite books. And he talks about how polyglot's someone that knows several languages and continues to learn more and more languages. And it completely defeats this concept of like, old dogs can't learn new tricks. But what you said ties into exactly how polyglots actually learn so quickly. They do something they call social suicide. which is, you go to Mexico and maybe you learn how to say like another beer, please, right? Like uno más cerveza, por favor, and you're all rigid and American or Canadian when you say it, and you're half drunk, so who cares? And that whole story that plays out for so many, right? Well, a polyglot goes in there and they'll say something to have a conversation like we're having today. They'll learn to ask you a question about your values and why you started Relentless Digital Media. And then they'll try to keep up, knowing damn well that they barely know this language. So they call it social suicide. And it's the same thing in networking. If you'll get over yourself for a minute and just succumb to the feeling of social suicide, just go over, say what you can, even if it's a peep that comes out, followed by, gosh, I'm so anxious, I'm not used to this, and watch what happens.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to put yourself out there and start talking about yourself to people you don't know and you may never see again. But I think as a business owner or manager or someone that aspires to be a business owner, I think it's necessary. You're taking a huge risk owning a business. You have to be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable positions in order to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
One of our old coaches, he actually got this tattooed on his hand, which isn't something I'm looking to do, but he was so committed to this philosophy, and it was Widwow. What if it does work out? What if it does?
Flipping the paradigm there, the thought.
Yeah, crazy. So
you guys don't. Tersh has. You talked about hand. Sorry, he's got a gear shifter tattoo on his hand.
What's the significance?
And he's had to have it redone, like, because think about it. You're using screwdrivers and stuff. He's actually in the field this week. So he's screwdrivers and all the kind of different tools that they use. He's had to have it redone like 6 times. I'm like, that sounds really painful, dude. Like, I don't think I would have put that there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my ring finger at one point, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not redoing that, let alone the palm. I'll stick with ribs and
that's a sensitive.
Everything here is done, but I'm not doing any more than that.
There's not a lot of fat or anything else there to catch the.
Nope,
it's just bone.
Nope, just nothing but painful vibrations.
Yeah. So we've been in a lot of the entrepreneur side of this, and I'm glad we don't get to go deep with other like-minded individuals very often. So it's nice. It's nice to go into that, but I don't want to miss out on giving some solid marketing foundations here for our listeners. We talked about principles so much. You talk about Relentless and really the purpose of Relentless and why it came together. What do you feel, Josh, makes you different than other marketers? And in that pursuit, maybe it's in your values or your why, but if you could help us understand that to start.
Yeah. So the first thing that we focused on, and the reason I focused on is because, again, the one nice thing that I had is I was in charge of the marketing and the operations of the company, which is pretty rare. But it allowed me to see things a little differently. I think I wasn't just looking at the marketing side. I wasn't just looking at my technicians' KPIs side. I was looking at everything holistically. And I was noticing that our average tickets on our leads it was Google My Business at that point were phenomenal. Like, I'm like, our average tickets were great. The customers we hired didn't butcher us on price. Like, they were great customers. And so that's why I started deep diving. That was the first service we ended up offering. That's all we did was optimizing and growing Google business profiles. And I didn't see anyone talking about it. Everyone was talking about their website because that's what SEO used to be before Google Maps really became a prevalent thing. And so I put a ton of emphasis on it. The whole entire first year, we didn't touch websites. That's what we focused on, because and you look at today, like the number of leads you get through your Google business profile versus your website, it's like 85 or 88% of all tracked leads come through the Google business profile. Now, they may go to your website to make sure you're legit, and there are definitely leads you still get from that, but it is not what it used to be. And that was one thing and there's some really, do you guys mind if I go into like some, like, especially the size companies in your group, there's a lot of common problems that are hindering them from growing. But what happens is when you get on a sales call with a marketing agency, they don't tell you this stuff. Either they don't know, or they just don't. I don't want to say they don't care, because there's a lot of good people in marketing. I know marketing gets a bad rap sometimes, but I think it's a lot of, they just don't know, because it's a salesperson and their job is to just to sell, to make a commission and make a living. But smaller businesses, If you have your Google business profile set up as a service area business, meaning you're using your house address, you have the address hidden, you're hurting yourself by not having a physical location. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a shop, because I know that's expensive and it costs a lot of money. There's a lot, especially after COVID, there's a lot of empty office suites.
Yeah.
200 square feet where you can put a desk, computer, and phone in, or just even get a sign on the door, that you can open up a Google business profile listing, get it verified in your target city. And I'll go into that in just a second. But so having your address hidden, I don't know exactly. Nobody's ever really been able to answer it. You don't rank as well just by that one thing.
Yeah.
So you're actually hurting yourself by doing that. Because we've had case studies where we had someone that hid their address, and then we got it flipped, and we took before and after screenshots of their rankings. Literally within like 48 hours, rankings changed, their visibility changed like 20-25%, just by having an office. That's it.
Wow.
Nothing else. We didn't even optimize the profile yet. So that's one thing. The other is the location that you pick. So there's two. There's the post office, or at least if you're in the, you guys call it post office in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We got Canada.
I don't know the
Post
call. I don't know
instead
it that
of,
well. I have a couple of marketing friends in Canada. I have some, we have a couple of clients there, but I don't know how it is that well. But
your friend in Toronto's pissed right now, by the way. He's like, yeah, we got a post office.
Okay.
Just not by dogs letting loose, right?
Yeah, hopefully he's not listening to this. But so there's two different things. There's the post office address, which a lot of times we have a client in Bozeman, Montana, for instance. They're actually in a town about 4 miles outside of Bozeman, but their post office address says, I'm in Bozeman, Montana. But if you go to Google Maps and you type in Bozeman, Montana, it'll zoom out this map, and it has, if you guys are listening to this, literally pull out your phone and do this, or on your computer. It has a red dotted map and outline of the city. Google uses that to help determine rankings and where your business is. So those near me searches that everybody wants to show up for, EV charging installation near me, electrician near me, stuff like that. If you're not inside of that red dotted map, you're also putting yourself at a disadvantage. It's not impossible, but it definitely is one of those things that is hindering your growth. So when you look for an address, let's say you have a house address, you're looking for an address, these are the types of things you want to do some research on. These are things that we help our clients do research on before they, like, don't sign a lease until you give us the address. We'll do the research. The other thing is you want to know your demographics of that city. Just because it's the city you live in does not mean it's the right city for your target client. We have a one that I can think of off the top of my head. He's in a town about 15 miles south of Lexington, Kentucky. He's an HVAC company, and poor rural town. He did okay, but was looking for, like, to try to find people that actually were going to pay his price and not beat him up all the time because they just didn't have the money for it. We ended up getting him a second listing in Lexington, and he's been killing it up there. But you have to do the research to find where that person is. And I know these are getting like deeper discussions into marketing demographics and stuff, which, if you're not familiar with marketing, these might be foreign concepts to you. You may just think, well, they have houses in the city I live, so why can't I just do their electrical work? Not everyone is your customer. There's a big, like, you got to know the market, and there are firms and data sources that can help. One of my favorite is ChatGPT, because now all the information that's on the web, we can throw it into a ChatGPT and ask it, what's the median household income? How many single family dwellings are in that market? What's the population of that market? Is there enough opportunity for us to grow? And these things are just really, it changes the game, because now we've eliminated the barriers that Google has. We find the right customers. And then from that point on, it's about serving people, which I know you guys talk about a lot, and getting reviews. Get reviews. I'm going to keep saying it because you got to get reviews. Like, electricians, you have a massive opportunity. We talked about how it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the skilled trades.
Yep.
The beautiful part for you is that there's not that many companies going out there and getting reviews. HVAC, it is very hard to find a market where the top guy doesn't have at least 500 to 1,000 reviews. Electrical is not that way.
Correct.
And so if you are one of those people that jump on that, and if you take nothing else from this, you jump on that immediately after this, and you get a a QR code on your business card, or you get one of those, what's it, the NFC, there's like cards, like hard plastic cards. You can have
Yeah,
someone
the
literally like
QR code, the dot card,
just like you
Google
tap
dot
to
card.
pay,
Yeah.
you can tap on your phone, it'll pull up your Google listing, and then have some sort of automation in the background to follow up and make sure that they had a good experience. It's not that hard. Like the last HVAC company I worked at, we had 46 Google reviews. That company had been in business like 10 years.
Wow.
We had 46 Google reviews, a couple on Facebook, like one terrible review on Better Business Bureau. That was one of the first things I did, was implement an automated system to capture reviews. We went from 46 to over 600 on Google in 2 years. We had an F rating on BBB because there was one person that we just could not make happy. We ended up having like 25 5-star reviews after that on BBB. Nextdoor, we ended up having 50 or 60 recommendations and winning Nextdoor favorite for multiple years in a row. Facebook, we had over 100 I think they were called recommendations, not reviews anymore. But we just asked, and we automated it. But we asked every single job. We asked on estimates, and we would get 5-star reviews on estimates because our people were so thorough. But that's where the service side has to be. Like, if you just go and you're there and you leave, you email an estimate 15, or not 15 minutes later, but you email an estimate 2 weeks later, you are not going to get a 5-star review.
100%.
But if you take your time, you follow a process like Clay and Joseph, I know, teach, you're going to get, they're like, wow, this was really thorough, that they took time to answer my question. They're going to give you good reviews. So we asked everybody. I didn't care. It was just, we asked everybody. Some companies don't want to do that because their processes or people maybe are not at that level, but it grew tremendously just by doing that. And we helped ourselves. And now the people that came to us are like, oh, I see your reviews. I hired you because of your reviews. Your marketing costs are going to be that much lower because that's why they're hiring you now, because you're the best company in the market.
217th, I think you said, fastest growing companies. Would you just share with us, like, what would you say is maybe one of the biggest helping guiding principles or ideas that you've pulled from this that have helped you grow so quickly?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 2 words.
All right.
And you know how you guys said that you just have to be reminded of stuff?
Yeah.
These are not going to be the most mind-blowing words you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Implementation and consistency. It's really boring advice, but I try to say this as much as I can. One of my strong suits is implementation. I find something new, and when we want to do it, we go do it. I don't care what's going on. We're going to do it. We're going to implement it. We're going to get it done. And then we just keep showing up, and we just keep learning, and we just keep diving into, like, it's crazy where the world has gone with different things. We just keep finding different things to develop and help people with and expand our services, but we just keep showing up. So just keep doing the work. And when you learn something new, like if you're at an event or you're listening to a podcast and you learn something from this podcast, don't sit and write it down and think about it and, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Do it. Do it on your next call. If you're in between calls and you're listening to this and the review thing spoke to you, do it. Just try it.
Bingo.
Don't wait. And it's so simple, but it's simple but not easy, I think is the term. Because most people, they'll hear stuff and write it down and they'll think about it and they'll come back to it when they're cleaning up their notes, and they never do it. And the action takers are the ones that grow.
I actually was just listening to a lecture earlier, and the thing he was saying was that people love listening to profound advice, and they say, that's great advice for someone else. But my situation is very unique. And it just seems like almost every person you'll work with, you'll see that same mentality come in, where you'll have the answer to the question. They're like, that's great advice. Man, Josh, so profound. But let me tell you more about what I'm facing. How often do you run into that, brother?
Oh, all the time. Everyone, their market's different. The people are different in their market. We all got unique things about our market, our people, our homeowners. But the thing is, there are a lot of similarities from companies that have already done it. Don't try to put yourself in that bucket. Don't try to make an excuse. Just try it. And by try it, actually try it. Don't try it once. Oh, it didn't work. Because it's crazy. I mean, like you said, you had Bailey, you said a shout out. He implemented, he did it. And now he sees the light bulb. He's like, holy shit, like this is going to change my life because he took action and he didn't just, oh, it's not going to work for me. And the stories like that. And I love that you guys share your wins and you guys have like your weekly wins and stuff. I love seeing those because it's so cool to see people that finally get it. And now all that hard work, all the struggles and the challenge, it's like now all of a sudden they're excited to come into work. They're excited to grow their business. They're excited to work late or work on the weekend when they have extra time because now it's like, holy crap, the world is at my fingertips. I can create a massive value for my family, for my extended family, for whatever I want to do in life.
Exactly. Like if you had to work 60 hours, but you felt that you'd be no farther after those 60 than when you first started, you're going to lead that person into, they're just going to go downhill real fast. But if at the end of that 60 hours, they're able to say, you know what, I did something, and that particular thing I see has potential to get me out of this loop, now the real excitement happens. And they'll put 70 to prevent the 60 for next week. It's amazing to see.
Can I add something to that? Because you
please, by all
mentioned
means.
working longer hours, and I know we're running up on time here. And this is something that like Tersh and I, we talk about this a lot on our podcast. We're super passionate about this because this is actually how we met and bonded well before we started the podcast together. Was optimize, automate, delegate. And essentially what that's saying is your processes, you need to optimize what it is first, or at least record yourself doing the process. And then if you can, try to automate that process. If you have no idea how to do that, maybe your first step is to delegate. There are, I don't know how the actual number, there's probably hundreds at this point of agencies of people working in other countries for extremely low rates. But for them, it's a great rate. Like they get paid really well to do these things. They love doing the billing, the account, the stuff that we can't stand as business owners or technicians. You need to delegate that stuff. Delegate the stuff you don't like. It's one of the, like, honestly, if you could take one other thing from this episode is start delegating the things that drive you crazy. The things that literally you're like, oh, you just keep putting it off. I cannot stand doing this thing, whatever that thing is, and start delegating that somehow, some way. Start somewhere. And I can make some referrals or give you guys some links or whatever for that stuff. But
appreciate it, bro.
Changes your life. Like literally, that was one of the first hire I made when I went full time was to an agency, and I hired a VA who's still with us. He's been with us for 3.5 years now. Best thing I ever did. He set up all of our ClickUp templates. He helped me with a ton of stuff. I have an EA now that, like, my email is going on over here. She takes care of all of it. She's organized it for me. So then at the end of the day, I just come and I take care of what I need to take care of, all the crap and the spam. I give her rule. Obviously, you got to give rules. That's why you got to optimize it first. But it takes care of all that stuff so I can focus on the things like this, like giving value back to an audience that I wasn't really a part of before, and creating content and doing valuable things to grow the business. I don't have to worry about, oh, what do I want to do with that email? Or how do I want to respond to that? Or I need to create a task for that or whatever. It's just get rid of the things that are wearing you down so you can focus on the things that you actually love to do. Even if that's being a technician, delegate some of the office stuff so you can stay in a truck. Sometimes I know the thing is like, well, get out of a truck. If you really love being in a truck and you're great at it, delegate the other stuff. Get rid of it because that's what you love to do. And it's your business. You can do whatever you want.
It's one of our biggest secrets, man. Delegate the stuff you're not good at that doesn't make you money first. And it changes your life because all of a sudden
it does. Because then you don't hate that stuff. You don't hate your business because you have to do billing for 15 hours a week or payroll or, just some of the stuff. It just takes forever to do. Get rid of that stuff. Find someone that actually is good at it and knows how to do that stuff better than you. They actually like that. Believe it or not, there's people that actually like doing that stuff. So let them do it. Get out of 100%. Your own way.
It's amazing. It's almost like with sales training. You've got people in their own companies that are like, I don't like training my team. It's a boring thing. I don't like doing it every morning. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I love doing it. I will do every class I possibly can. Give me more. So it's just get the right person for the right thing.
Absolutely. 100%. Josh, I've got 3 rapid fire questions I'm hoping you'll help us with before we end this. What's one of your favorite case studies, just quick, that you've been able to help, and why?
Favorite case studies is having someone that, I don't have a specific use case, but this happened multiple times, where somebody who has been through multiple marketing companies thought digital marketing was never going to work for them.
Mhm.
They come to us, they implement the strategies and understand the location stuff that we talked about earlier about Google Business Profile. We get it right, and they grow, and the light bulb comes on, similar to your guys' training. Those are the wins I love the most, is people like, they gave up on digital marketing, and then they realize that there's a better way, and there's another way, and then they have success.
Love it. Love it. If an electrician's listening now, and I'm sure there are, how would they know if Relentless is the right place for them to come and have that similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, best thing to do is schedule a call, because all the things we talk about this stuff on sales calls a lot. We do a lot of filtering ourselves. Like, if your revenue's not high enough, there's certain levels to that. Like, we're not going to take your money. We're literally we'll give you some tips and some guidance, and then come back to us in 6 or 12 months. And we have people come back all the time. We tell them about the location stuff. Hey, we can't work with you because you got a service area business. Go get a location. Come back when you do. We'll help you out. And that happens all the time. So we're totally fine building our pipeline that way, and just pointing you in the right direction, even if you don't work with us.
Based on revenue, then who's qualified to work with you?
I would say you get close to that, like 750 to $1 million mark is the right spot, because there's a lot of marketing agencies that have really cheap programs that might look like a fit for you. But one thing we never wanted to do, and this is because I came from the trades, I never wanted to have a program that I didn't feel like actually could grow your business. So our programs we don't have a $500 to $100 a month program. And it's just because I cannot do enough work for that price to get you there. So I'd rather give you guidance and give you tips to get yourself to that point, or get them incorporated in your guys' training, so they can get the foundational principles of running a business down. Then let's talk about the marketing, because there's a lot of stuff you can do before you even do marketing. If you got a little hustle and a little grind in you, you can get to $1 million. You can. I'm living. I didn't do marketing before this, and I had a branch I opened up. We went from 0 to $1 million in 10 months, and I didn't spend money unpaid. I didn't do any of that stuff. We just got reviews, great service, and hustled like crazy.
Yep, that's two. Number 3, electrician listening to this, final question for you, brother. Why would they want to tune into Home Service Business Mastery podcast and give you a listen there too?
Because our content's very dynamic. It's well-rounded. We do talk a lot about AI and automation. That's really been a focus of ours as we move forward here with all the technology in the world. But we have conversations with counselors about how to work with your wife or your spouse. It's a little bit broader content. So it's meant to be for all kinds of people in different places and stuff like that. So we've a little bit of everything. And both of us worked in the trades. Church still owns 2 HVAC, plumbing, electrical businesses. I was in HVAC for 9 years. How we talk about stuff and the technology and some of the different processes, we lived it. We've done those things before. So it comes from it's not just a marketing company starting a podcast, for example. Like you guys have actually been in the trenches. You understand the trades at a different level than somebody who only does marketing for the trades. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely, man. Love that. Well, you're only the second non-electrician to be on the show, man. The first was Dan Antonelli, so you're in good company. We really enjoyed this talk. I think we could have went probably another 3 hours, although we haven't earned that right just yet. So typically a half-hour show, man. I want to thank you for every bit that you put out on the playing field here today, and Joe for helping bring another one home. If you guys got value from this, of course, let us know where you heard it first, and go
leave
have
a review
look
for them.
Yeah, leave a
There
review
you
for
go.
me. Thank you, Josh, for the ask. Yeah, absolutely. And if someone wants to connect with you, Josh, about Relentless or the podcast or any of that, what's the best place to find you and reach out?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. Relentless-digital.com. I'm too cheap to buy the relentlessdigital.com domain. Maybe that'll change one of these days. Or just reach out to me on Facebook. Just find my name. I answer pretty quickly to that stuff. So either way is fine with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. We'll see everyone next week. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Million Dollar Electrician podcast.
We hope you're buzzing with new ideas that charged up to take your business to the next level.
So don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow electricians. Together, we'll keep the current flowing.